And welcome back to Story Break. I'm Mike Champagne, and every 3 weeks we bring you a brand new story to give you a chance to take a few minutes for yourself just to relax. This new story is called Suz. It's the story of a young girl who finds herself alone and with few resources in the middle of a cynical and callous world. What she does and how she responds to this world is the subject of today's story. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, I hope you'll press like and subscribe or follow us so that you'll know when our next story is ready for you. So, here you are. Take a few minutes and listen to Suz.
Key Rest, you stink! The whole class exploded into laughter. Suz felt the heat rise up her backbone to her scalp. The bell rang and she ran home. She didn't ride the bus. She never did. Not with the kids. The shack on the edge of town, that was home. They had electric sometimes, and there was water, cold. The old fridge worked, but it was all beer. There was a wood burner for cooking and for heat, and a rustic clawfoot in the toilet. Nobody used it. Nobody bothered much with that. Pop worked the sawmill sometimes. He brung food when he remembered, and she got the breakfast at school and lunch. If there was extra, she knew to slip it into her string sack for later. Mama was gone. She lit out. That's all Pop said about it when she got home from school one day. And then he carried his six-pack out to the porch. Roy was 15 and mostly gone. He come round when he was hiding from trouble mostly. Her ears were still drumming from the laughter of the kids. "Get rest, you stink!" Made her whole face hot. She slammed the door shut behind her. She looked around her. Dishes piled in the sink, covered with dried-up rancid food. Flies, floor strewn with dirty clothes. Beds unmade forever. Cobwebs and dead bugs in desiccated piles in the corners. She looked down at her smeared and faded dress and saw the stains and grime worn into the fabric, and then she looked in the cracked mirror by the bedroom door. There she was, plain as a stick and no bigger than a minute. Skinned knees, greasy blunt-cut hair, and smudges of ground-in dirt round her elbows and wrists. Her socks hung by her ankles, drooping over the worn-out kids. She did stink. She knew it. She was dirty, and the house, it was dirty, but now she really saw it. As she stood in front of that cracked mirror, she felt something rising in her that she couldn't name. It was powerful and deep, and it nearly knocked her over. It broke her gaze from the mirror, and she faced the miserable shack. She felt it take hold of her and her skinny little body, and she moved. As if pushed, she went round the entire shack, picking up clothes and throwing them in the old footed tub in the miserable bathroom. She put every piece of clothing she could find, hers, Roy's, Pop's, and piled them in the tub. She turned on the tap and watched as the clothes slowly sank into the water. She filled the largest pot she could lift with water and put it on the stove to heat, and took off her dress and socks and put them into the tub as well. She rooted round under the sink for the dried old bar of octagon soap and pulled it off the cabinet floor where it had partly melted into the wood and threw it into the tub. When the water on the stove was hot, she dumped it into the tub and began to scrub every piece of clothing until her fingers went raw. When she was done, she pulled on the long chain that held the tub stopper and let the dark gray water drain out. She turned on the water and rinsed again until all the gray was gone. Then she piled all the clothes in her old wagon from the porch and dragged them out to the two sagging lines Ma used to use. She strained to throw all the clothes over the lines and found the old cloth bag of pins Ma kept by the shed. She pinned every last piece of clothing in place, and she went back inside and filled the old tub again and heated another pot of water. This tub was for her. Suz made herself climb in. She took the same old bar of soap and scrubbed. She washed her hair and scrubbed her elbows. Her eyes stung and her skin knees felt like bees were at 'em, but she didn't care. She was not going to stink, not no more. The next day, she dressed and went to school. She slid silently into her place at the back of the room. She could feel that her hair was, well, not soft exactly, but not greasy. Her dress was still stiff from the soap, and she wore the underwear she had washed along with herself in the same tub. She wanted only to be invisible. No one should see her or smell her. No one looked or said anything, and the morning passed. None of them said nothing. Every day, for the rest of the week, Suz cleaned and swept and washed. She turned out the old mattresses on the porch and beat them for their crimes until no more dust come out. She left them in the sun until it started to get dark and dragged them back in onto their rough frames. It was Friday. She was exhausted, but she filled the clawfoot and sank herself and her clothes and scrubbed. She dragged herself into the little room that was hers and fell on the bed to a dead sleep. Ida, where are you, you crazy bitch? Pop was home. He was drunk and hollering as he looked around the house. Come on out, I know you're here. Finally, he staggered to the little room, pushed open the door, and stood there blinking at the vision of Suz sitting up with a sheet pulled up to her chin and her two wide gray eyes staring at him. Where's she at? She ain't here, Pop. Suz's voice was small but steady. Who's been here? Nobody. Who done all this, then? He stood there teetering and confused. Me. Pa looked at the rest of the shack and looked back at Suz. You done this? Yeah. Shit. With that, Pop staggered to the largest bedroom and collapsed on the bed on top of the clean sheet and pillows Suz had put there and fell unconscious. It went on like this. Pop came and went, mostly drunk, and Roy sometimes, and Suz would clean. She learned about soda cans from watching an old Chinese woman doing it, about how you could get money from cans and bottles at the salvage center. Wasn't much, but it bought her some food and soap that didn't burn her skin. And she found the goodwill. After they sorted out the good stuff, they let her take clothes for free. Now she had stuff to wear. Nobody could say nothing. It changed at 14. Pop was homesick. The cans weren't enough to feed them both. They didn't give breakfast to older kids, and they stopped her taking extra lunch home. She was walking to school when she could feel that thing inside her pushing on her. On King Street, she heard a woman's voice, high and angry, exploding through her front door. I ain't your slave, you damn bitch! I quit! I ain't working for you no more! The woman stomped down the steps as a large, older woman came out to the front porch. I know what you stole! I'm calling the police. They'll put you in jail. The old woman strode to the edge of the porch as the other woman fled down the walk. Go ahead, bitch. You call them, and I'll tell them all about you, thinking I'm going to work for next to nothing just 'cause I'm black. Prejudice. That's what you got. Ah, tell them that, you crazy old cracker bitch. With that, the woman scuttled down the walk and away. The old woman stood there looking daggers down the street, and she noticed Suz standing on the walk, not 5 feet from the turn to her property. Well, what are you looking at? I'll do it. Suz just stood there looking at the large old woman. Do what? The old woman crossed her arms and stood on the top of the step looking down at her. Work. Sue's voice was small but firm. You? Girl, this is a big old house, and there's nothing to you. I'm enough. The thing inside Suz made her stand strong, and it made the old woman uncross her arms. Shouldn't you be in school or something? The woman peered at her narrowly. I'm out of school. How old are you? 16. It was a lie, but she had to say it. The woman turned sideways a little. You look maybe 12. I'm enough. Suz stood her ground. What's your name? The woman seemed to waver. Suz. Suz, huh? It's $5 for the day training. You'll work with me. Come on if you're coming. Suz had never been in such a big house. 3 floors. There were bathrooms on every floor with big white tubs and white sinks with silver handles. The kitchen was huge with an electric stove. The polished floors gleamed, and there were thick carpets everywhere. She saw all this as the old woman took her to the top floor. You start here. Every day I want the bathroom scrubbed out, all 3. Floors washed, sinks and tubs too. Beds changed every week. Fresh sheets, mattresses turned. All the floors vacuumed, furniture dusted every day, polished once a week. When you get downstairs, I'll show you what I want in the kitchen. You still want to do this? The old woman looked at Suz with a challenge in her eye. Show me, was all Suz would say. At 6 o'clock that evening, Suz and the old woman stood in the kitchen. The old woman stared at her. Here's your $5. You coming tomorrow? What pay? The old woman looked at her for a moment. 10 a day. Slack off and you're done. What time? Ms. Blaylock, that was her name. Showed Suz how to vacuum, how to polish. She showed Suz how to clean good things like silver and crystal, when to be gentle, when to scrub. She showed her how to wash clothes in the washing machine. She watched her until she knew Suz could do it right. In a month, Suz came and went, and Ms. Blaylock stopped following her around the big house. Suz would come, do the work, and a crisp 10 sat on the hall table as she left. She didn't have no time for school, but there was food now, and Pop didn't get no better. Most of the time he just sat on the porch sleeping. Sometimes he'd go drinking, and he'd come back worse. She made him soup from a can, she knew that much. It was something. He died that winter. There was a service. She told Ms. Blaylock she wouldn't be in that day, and the old woman grunted something, but she didn't get mad. Suz wore her best goodwill dress. The county child services man come, and he said there had to be a responsible adult. Roy's 18, she told him. The man looked at Roy and sized him up. You taking the responsibility for your sister? He'll do it. Suz stared at Roy, and he nodded. Yeah, sure. That's how it went. She lived at the shack, mostly by herself, and she worked for Ms. Blaylock. One afternoon, Miss Blaylock said to her, Miss Joynes over on River Road wants to talk to you. She needs cleaning. I told her you were good. I still expect you to do your job here. Might be too much for you. I'm enough. With that, Suz walked a half-mile or so to Miss Joynes's and knocked on her door. A little woman hobbled to the screen door and peered out. She was old, too, like Miss Blaylock. You, Suz? Yes, ma'am. You're a little bit, ain't you? Mamie says you're good, are you? You can see. The old woman looked at Suz for a moment. "What'd she pay you?" 10. 10? The woman seemed to rock back on her heels for a moment. Then she looked back at Suz. "Well, I got to have help. The arthritis is getting to me. Come on in. We'll try it out. I'll pay you when you're done. That all right?" "Miss Blaylock pays me cash." "Of course, cash. What do you expect?" "If I keep you, I want 3 days a week, 4 hours each. Can you do it?" Just show me what you want, ma'am." And Suz was in. At the end of the day, Miss Joynes met her by the door. "Well, Mammy didn't lie. You're real good. Here you are. $40. That's 10 an hour. I'll see you every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Saturday we cook for the church. That okay?" Suz felt the $10 bills in her hand, but she was afraid to look. $10 an hour. For a moment she couldn't breathe. She just stared at Miss Joynes. "Well, is that okay?" The old woman sounded alarmed. Yes, ma'am. Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Thank you." She slipped out the door, squashing the bills in her tight in her fist until she got out of sight. She shoved her fist with her money into her pocket so no one could see. $50. 40 from Miss Joynes and 10 from Miss Blaylock. She had $50 in her pocket all at once. Between the two jobs, she'd have $210 every week. Well, she couldn't take it in. Between the two jobs, what would she do with $210? When she got home, she found the tin box Pop used to keep his liquor money in and stuffed the bills in it. She put the box deep under the bed and warmed up her soup. She ate, thinking of the money. She bathed, thinking of the money. She went to sleep, thinking of that much money. On the first Saturday, Suz awoke with dread. She suddenly remembered that Miss Joynes wanted her to cook. All that money in her fist made her forget. She didn't cook. She didn't know nothing about it. She thought the thought descended on her like ice. She should have told. She walked to Miss Joynes' house with dread. The old woman was waiting for her by the door. She was sure the old woman would fire her. "What's wrong, Suz? You look like somebody shot your dog." "Miss Joynes, I don't know cooking. All I can make is a can of soup." She stood there, expecting the woman to throw her out the door. "What do you eat, child?" "Soup. Sandwiches. I can make sandwiches." "Uh-huh. Well, I guess you're going to learn. We're making pies today for the social. When we're done, you're going to know how to do that anyways. Now you put on this apron and come with me." Miss Joynes wasn't like Miss Blaylock. She could talk your ear off. She kept Suz fetching and stirring and mixing all the while, telling her this and that about making pies. She also told her all kinds of things about just about everybody in town as well. At the end of the day, Suz's ears were sore, but she knew how to make 3 different kinds of pie. She went home with her pocket full and her head stuffed with pie. In a few weeks, Suz could cook. Miss Joynes met her at the door every Saturday like she was some long-lost family. She showed Suz everything from pie to the moon, talking all the time. Suz listened and took it all in like a sponge. On the way home, she'd buy things at the store and try to make the food she made with Miss Joynes. It shocked her when it come out. Even with the old wood burner, and the old lady was nice to her, not like Miss Blaylock. Nobody ever talked so much to her. Nobody. It was hard at first, but then she liked it. She couldn't think of much to say, but she listened and she thought. Now she had food she could cook for herself and money. It was good. Then Roy come home. And he brought Jessie. Jessie was about the prettiest boy she ever saw. He was tall and blond like a picture, and he was always smiling and just the opposite of Roy. "I come to make sure you're okay," but Suz knew he must be in trouble. "This is Jesse's. He's going to stay with us. Don't tell nobody." "What do you do, Roy?" "Nothing. We ain't staying. But we don't need our business out there. You hear?" Roy took a small step toward her. "Yeah." "You got any food?" Suz went to the icebox and pulled out a pie with a slice taken out and then put it on the scrub table. Roy looked at the pie with its crimped lattice crust. "Where'd you get that?" "Made it." Suz stood there staring at Jesse. Roy grabbed a knife and cut through with an urgency that made Suz flinch. He pulled a piece off and handed it to Jesse, and both young men devoured the pie in just a few minutes. "You got anything else?" Suz went back to the icebox and took out half of what Miss Joines called a casserole. She had made it earlier and thought to have have the rest of it for tomorrow's supper. Roy grabbed the pan from her, and he and Jesse fell on it with 2 spoons. It was gone in a few bites. "You got any beer?" "Not since Pop." Suz couldn't take her eyes off Jesse. "You're a good cook. I ain't had pie like that since a long time." Jesse looked right at her and smiled again. They stayed. They went out at night most times, come back at dawn and flopped. Jesse played guitar sometimes, and he sang. She never heard nothing like it, not right there where she was. Suz cleaned up and cooked. Jesse always said how good it was, and she took to washing their clothes on account of Jesse, but she wouldn't tell him that. Roy was drinking way too much, like Pop. One Sunday late, there was a lot of noise. Suz got up scared. It was the 2 of them. Jesse was howling in pain, and Roy was half carrying him. He dumped Jesse on the pallet that Suz fixed as a bed, and Jesse screamed as he hit the floor. Roy was scared and angry, and he was out of breath and pacing up and down. "Oh, they seen us there. They don't know you, but they might know me. God damn." Suz knelt on the floor by Jesse, not sure what to do. "Roy, what'd you do?" "Nothing. It was nothing. I gotta get away. I gotta go." Roy was trying to think. "You can't leave me here, man. Well, what if they come?" Jesse was holding his leg, rocking with pain, tears streaming down his sweat-drenched face. "They don't know you, but they'll know me. I'm going." "Roy, you gotta take me with you." "You can't go nowhere, not with a broke leg. I gotta get. You stay here. Nobody knows you. Suz will take care of you, right, Suz?" "Suz, you don't say nothing to no one but about Jesse. You hear? His leg's broke. You watch him. If it gets worse, get a doctor or something. I gotta go." He dashed out the door, letting it swing open to the damp chirping of crickets. Suz was up the whole night trying to help Jesse. She broke a broom handle in 2 and tied the pieces tight to Jesse's leg with strips of rag like she saw once. He screamed while she was doing it, but after a while he calmed down and fell asleep. She watched him all night. Monday was a double day. In the morning she left food and water near his bed and slipped out to Miss Blaylock's as he snored. She worked like a demon and finished both jobs early. As she got close to the shack, she started to get scared. She didn't know what she'd find. What if he was dead? What if he needed a doctor? She didn't know any doctors. As she reached for the door handle, she took a deep breath and pushed the door open. "You got anything to eat? I've been waiting. I'm hungry." The young man smiled at her, and she could feel her heart leap out of her chest. He was alive. I'll fix something. Can you wait?" "Well, I guess I got to." "I need to piss." He looked at her embarrassed. "Oh, can I help you?" "I gotta give her a try, else I'm gonna piss all over the floor." Leaning heavily on Suz, the young man managed to rise and put his weight on the good leg. He winced, but found his balance. Together, they hobbled to the toilet where Jesse leaned on the tank. Suz looked away, and he relieved himself. When he was done, Suz supported him, and they managed to lower him onto the bed in Roy's room that used to be Pop's. She helped him lift the leg onto the bed. Oh, hurts now. Jesse winced some more. I'll make something to eat. The next morning, Suz went to the Goodwill. She found a pair of crutches for $2 and brought them back to Jesse. That's how it went. Suz worked and took care of Jesse. Every night after they ate, he sang to her. He even made up songs about her. He said how one day when he got some money together, he was going to Nashville and become a singer on records. Oh, I bet you will. I ain't heard nobody sing like you. What's the matter with you, Suz? You in love or something? Miss Joynes stood at the big kitchen table watching Suz as she dashed around the kitchen, helping with the cooking for the big Sunday social. Huh? Suz froze for a moment. She stood there holding a huge tray of cookies. Look out for what you're doing, child. You'll have that whole batch on my floor. Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Joynes. She quickly landed the plate on the table before any slid off and stood there blowing on her fingers to cool them. You're zooming around here like you got wings on your feet. Can't wait to leave. That usually means the young girl's in love. So what's going on? Miss Joynes stood there with bread dough clinging to her hands, looking straight at her. Nothing. She wondered if the old woman knew about Jesse. She seemed to know everything about everybody. No one was supposed to know about Jesse. Well, something's different. I don't know. Suz went back to pulling the trays of cookies from the oven. She was careful to keep her eyes down, but she couldn't help thinking about what Miss Joynes said. No, she was just taking care of him. She didn't mind having him around, that's all. Kind of reminds me of my friend Delia. Miss Joynes was back to kneading her bread. We're a little older than you. She's quiet like you. One day, I noticed she was smiling and humming to herself, and I asked her, Della, what are you so damn happy about? And you know what she said? She said to me, Janie, I met me a man I'm going to marry. Lord, he wasn't no good. He was just some hired man. Sure enough, and married him, and she was just 17. He went off with some other gal and left her with 3 kids. She kept on saying to me, Janie, why wasn't I enough for him? Why wasn't I? I'd have killed him if it was me. Miss Joynes, all the cookies are out. I made the pies and the chicken's done. Can I go? The old woman didn't look up from the dough trough. Still got 20 minutes. Yes, ma'am. Suz took out the loaf pans for the bread. Oh, go on. I can't fault you for being young. Money's in the jar by the door. Thank you, Miss Joynes. Uh-huh. Suz? Yes, ma'am. Suz was quickly untying her apron. Whatever the reason, I like seeing you this way. I ain't seen much of that from you. It was Saturday night. That meant no work on Sunday. Suz bought him a couple of big pork chops and some greens. They'd eat a nice supper, and then Jesse would play all kinds of things, songs he knew and songs he made up. That'd be real nice, nicer than she could remember. She always went to Mobley's on account of they had good big chops, and Mr. Mobley would sell her the beer, no questions asked. She kept thinking about what Miss Joynes said, like you got wings on your feet. She could feel her face get hot at the thought of it. She just liked taking care of him. She liked washing his clothes and making sure everything was scrubbed clean. She liked making sure everything was just right. She always done for herself, always. Since that boy, she said she stunk. Felt good doing it. made her feel like somebody. But she didn't tell no one about Jessie. She knew she couldn't. Oh, all this thinking. She picked up the pace. She hustled up the road to the edge of town. When she got to the shack, the light was on, and she walked up the back, carrying all of her supper things. She pushed herself up the porch and leaned against the door to open it. "Jessie, I got us something nice for supper. Jessie?" She put her bundles down and looked around. The door to Pop's old room was just open a little, and she went over and knocked. "Jessie?" She pushed the door. Usually Jessie was sitting there picking at his guitar, but he wasn't. And his guitar was gone. Suz got a cold feeling in her gut and went to the old dresser. Jessie's drawer was pulled open and empty. She went to the porch and called out to the dimming light, "Jessie! Jessie, I'm going to make supper." There was no reply. It felt like she wasn't there. She went back in, but she didn't feel her body move. She saw that the door to her own little room was tilted open, and she was drawn inside. Everything was tossed up. Her bed was tilted on its side, and the metal box, the one Pop used to keep his liquor money in, the one she kept her own money in, now was upended on the floor. Empty. She went back out to make supper. If she made supper, Jessie would come back. She waited 2 hours. It was dark now, and the night critters were singing to each other, but Jessie didn't come. She cleaned up the supper without eating. She went into her room and put the bed right, picked up the metal box and reached into her pocket for her cleaning money from the day and shoved it inside. She put it back into its place under the bed. She put everything back where it should be, thinking deep inside herself all the while. She filled the clawfoot, washed like she always done, went to her bed. At Miss Joines, she went about everything in the same way, thinking about everything that happened over and over again. She didn't need to pay much attention. The work was in her hands. Miss Joines went on about people, but Suz was so taken up. She didn't notice that the old woman had gone silent and was just watching her. "All right, child, you tell me what's going on." "Suz!" "Huh? Where are you? What's eating at you, Suz? You're walking around here like you're one of them zombies. What is it?" "Well, no, nothing. Just thinking." Miss Joines frowned with concern. "It's too much, child. Working for Mamie and for me, you're wore out. Maybe you ought to cut back for a while." I like coming here. I like Miss Blaylock's too, even if she don't talk much." "Well, the way you work, you do so much, and there's hardly nothing to you." Suz caught herself in Miss Joines' eyes, a small, weak thing with nothing to hold on to, and she didn't like it. It made her feel like the time the boys said she stank. She straightened herself up, looked right at Miss Joines. "You don't need to worry about me, Miss Joines. I'm enough."
I hope you enjoyed, Suz, and I hope it gave you a few minutes to unwind. The next story we're getting ready for you is called Reliquary. In this story, a young novice is schooled in the dispersal of relics. I hope you'll join us then. In the meantime, stay well, do good, and I'll see you then.